I'm Beth Parmar.
And I'm Paul Ryan.
And here's our latest edition of
Kids 11!
So the burning question on everybody's lips is, what are we going to talk about today, Beth Parmar?
Well, today, Paul, we're going to speak about anger. And specifically, how to handle it when our children get angry.
Oh, good. For a minute, I thought you were having a go at me, saying I'm the one that gets angry, but I'm not. Yes, kids and their anger. It's a big topic at the moment, isn't it? I know that you were saying before we started recording that there's a lot of this coming up with parents at the moment.
Yes, I'm speaking with a lot of children on a one-to-one in my coaching business, helping them to find strategies to deal with their anger, and also doing a lot of work with parents to try and teach them ways of dealing when their children get angry. Because,
of course, if your kid starts exploding at you, the first reaction is to explode back.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not talking from my own experience here, I promise, but it's quite common, that, isn't it?
Yeah, anger is very, very contagious, and that's why it can be very tricky to deal with. So for those of you who've listened to previous podcasts in our series, you may remember one called The Snake and the Rabbit. And this was where, I don't know if you remember, Paul, we explored different areas of the brain.
Yeah, absolutely.
And specifically the snake part of our brain, the reptilian, is the very basic part of our brain, which is where anger comes from. So the anger part of our brain can be very contagious because there is something in our brain that's like a mirror. And so whatever energy and response we get from another person, we tend to mirror back to them. So if someone shouts at us, our first response is to shout back at them.
Yeah.
Then they shout back at us, and it gets into who's got the biggest voice, who's got the loudest way of arguing, who can get the angriest.
Sure.
And it can be very difficult to calm someone down when you're getting angry yourself.
What I find is, on the occasions when I lose my temper or blow my stack, is actually I start blithering. I'm not making any sense, and the words start to trip out.
Yeah.
And any idea of status or authority goes out the window because you just sound like a blithering idiot.
Because you go back to like a childlike state, because your reptilian brain is very, very basic, very, very basic, and you act without thinking, you speak or you shout without thinking. You don't have any logic or reason.
So is that why it starts to turn into gibberish?
Yeah, because you cannot consciously comprehend what's going on. That bit of your brain is switched off. Your whole logical area and rationale is completely switched off. So it's what we're going to talk about today is how can you deal with your child when they're shouting it in your face, or how can you help them to calm down?
That's not fair!
So it seems to me there's two parts to this. There's your own anger as the adult, as the parent, and then there's dealing with the anger of the child.
Absolutely right. We're going to deal with your own anger, maybe on another occasion.
All right. Sorry, I don't make you jump there. I really made her jump, listeners. Sorry. So what we're going to look at today?
So for today, we're going to talk about what can we do to encourage our children to calm down. Okay.
Brilliant.
And that's what this session is all about.
Okay.
So I want you to think about anger like a fire.
Right.
Yeah? So like a fire. So it can start off with a little spark, and it can get big very quickly. But in order for a fire to get big very quickly, we need fuel, and we need oxygen, and we need to give attention to our fire. But there's also another thing we can do with fire, and we can put it out. So we need to make the choice. And we need to think when our child is angry, or when we can see them getting angry, we've got to think about, do we want to give them fuel to put on their fire by shouting back at them, or by maybe lecturing or nagging them when they're in this heightened state of anger? Or do we want to try as many things as we can to put the fire blanket on the fire?
And this is talking about their own anger.
Their own anger.
So when you're talking about the sparks, it's like seeing the little burst of nastiness or anger, for want of a much better word, coming out at you. It's making the decision to A, have the awareness, and then B, like you say,
do
smother
whatever
the
we
fire.
can to smother it, or encourage them to smother their own anger. I think one of the best things we can do as parents is to teach our children how to calm down on their own.
Right.
Because
without saying calm down.
Without saying calm down in a very patronising voice.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I won't do that anymore.
So what can we do when we're confronted with anger from our child? Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to remain calm ourselves. Because how many times have you done it yourself, or you've seen other people do it? Shouting at your child, calm down, is probably one of the worst things you can do.
Well, I think every parent's done it.
Yeah,
and when it's done, you realise that it's pointless and it's fruitless. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's one of the things.
Chiming with me.
That's one of the things that's adding fuel to your to their fire. But by asking a child to calm down, or by shouting at them to calm down, or by shouting at them to stop shouting, which is ironic in itself, that's one of the worst things that you can do. So it's about giving yourself some distance between you and your angry child. So this is one of the strategies we're going to look at now. Is we need to take a break, and we need to put some distance between the anger and the child.
And this is at the point where you see the sparks.
Yes.
The first spark is to retreat.
So either you can emotionally retreat in terms of you're not going to allow yourself to get into that reptilian snake brain. You're going to choose to remain calm and focused. Yeah. I think we need to under-communicate rather than over-communicate, because we know that the snake can't deal with logic.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's no point, whatever we say when our child is angry, we may as well be speaking in a different language, because the words are not really getting in.
Right, I see.
So we need to think about under-communicating with our words rather than over-communicating.
Okay.
And encourage the child to go somewhere to calm down, to take a break. What we're not suggesting is we're punishing our child for getting angry, because we don't want our children to be ashamed of their emotions and getting angry, because every child has emotions, every adult has emotions. It's about getting them to recognise that there are certain occasions when having a certain emotion, it's better that we go off somewhere and calm ourselves down.
Sure,
yeah. So one of the things I didn't mention at the start, which I probably should mention now, is while your child is in the fit of an anger, is not the right point to start suggesting different ways they can calm down.
Oh, right, you've already, the horse is bolted.
The horse is bolted. This is about putting a strategy in before anger takes
hold. Right, I see.
Hold. So identifying an anger strategy before the anger incident is a really good thing to do. And I say this is striking while the iron is cold, not striking while the iron is hot.
Right.
Yeah. So a time when your child is calm and is rational and is being very pleasant and reasonable, that's the chance to talk about. If they do get angry a lot, that's the chance to talk about. Next time you get angry, what are some of the things you could do? And I would recommend that every parent comes up with an anger strategy with their child, not for their child, with their child.
What's the difference?
Because if you work out an anger strategy for your child, you're enforcing your views on them.
Right. What's wrong with that?
Everybody deals with anger in a different way. So what might work to calm you down may not work to calm your child down.
So a pint of Stella isn't going to do it for my kids.
No. So some people need to do something very physical when they get angry. I know for me, if I can head out for a run, that's one of the best ways to get rid of anger.
Yeah.
Wouldn't work necessarily for my kids. They may prefer to go and do something quiet, to go and do something on their own that's a bit more reflective rather than physical.
So you're kind of facilitating the child making its own decisions about how to deal with the anger, and then I presume they feel more empowered and in a greater ownership of the solution.
Yeah, and they're much more likely to take note if they've come up with the ideas themselves. But you can certainly direct them in certain ways and ask them about, when you're angry, do you think this would help? Do you think this would help?
Right.
So there are sort of 4 or 5 key ways that children can calm down. So the first one I was touching on at the start there was to take a break, so to distance themselves from what's making them angry.
Yeah.
So if they're getting really angry, for example, with playing on a computer game, which is something that I hear more and more about, some of these computer games can really wind kids up. They get really angry if they start losing, or if their friends are online playing with them and they're beating them, or they're destroying their worlds in Minecraft and all this kind of fancy stuff that I do not understand, then that can be really, really frustrating. So to distance themselves from that computer game is the first step. That's really good.
Okay.
Yeah, and if they're getting frustrated maybe with doing their homework, or frustrated with building a Lego model, or whatever it is that they're
What about with a sibling? They're getting angry with a sibling.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely take a break from that. But what you're not doing is punishing them, as I said before.
Right.
You're not sending them to their room because you're punishing them. You're finding somewhere they can go to calm themselves down and to do some of these things that they're going to work out in their strategy. The other thing that's important to do with anger is, as we all know, when we get angry, things start happening in our body. Everything speeds up in the body. Our breath gets quick, our face gets red, our heart pumps around, our stomach churns.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to slow the body down. So this could be with breathing exercises. This could be with some kind of meditation, maybe listening to gentle music. Anything that we can just slow the body down with. So
this is if your child says, well, actually go and listen to some music, you would suggest slow.
Yeah,
almost
if that
hypnotic.
works for them, and I would suggest that every child should have some kind of playlist on their iPhone or iPod that they can go and listen to with headphones on when they get angry. And again, we've made that step, we've prepared it before anger's taken over.
Yeah.
We're not trying to...
It's something they can go to immediately and say, I'm getting to that place, let me listen to some chill out music.
Exactly, exactly. But for other children, as I touched on before, slowing down the body might not necessarily be the right thing for them. For some children, we need to do something physical. They need to do something physical. So maybe they need to go and run in the garden, maybe they need to go down to the park, maybe they need to go and ride their bike, maybe they need to actually shout, and it's fine for them to shout, but they have rules about where they can shout. So if they want to go in the garden and shout, or lock themselves in the car and shout, or go in the garage and shout, or go up to their room behind closed doors and shout, then that's fine. But what we're trying to discourage them from doing is shouting in someone's face, which can cause offence to them and escalate an argument and add fuel to that fire and make it get bigger. But if they feel that they have to get it out, and if that's a good strategy to calm them down, because what we don't want to do is to whip them up into a frenzy and get them even more angry. That's what I'm saying. It's a very personal thing, this whole dealing with anger, person to person. Maybe they need to actually punch something. Not another person,
God, you
not
said
a sibling, not a parent.
Yeah, exactly. Now, your anger strategy is to smack me in the mouth. Go for it. It's not going to work, is it?
It's not going to work.
Oh, give us a break!
So the best thing to encourage your children to punch is maybe something like a pillow or a
much
cushion.
Much better idea.
Or maybe even a punch bag. I know some kids really enjoy punching a punch bag. The one word of caution I would say here, though, is if punching something gets them more worked up, I would suggest it's not the best strategy for them to calm down.
I suppose you can only try that one out and see,
exactly,
can't you?
Exactly. And the other thing which may work is allowing your child to destroy something. And what I mean by this is not to go and trash their bedroom and to chuck books out of the way and to chuck their furniture everywhere. Maybe allow them to rip up a pile of newspapers or jump on a cardboard box or rip up something, that doesn't really matter. Maybe take something out of the recycling box, a box or a carton, and jump on it or smash it or rip it up. Just some way of getting this frustration out in a safe way.
And that's constructive, is it?
That's constructive, yeah. If it helps them to calm down, but it may just get them more out of control, and they may want to start destroying things that they shouldn't be destroying.
Eating the sofa, ripping apart the television screen. Yeah.
But having parameters about what they can destroy, and actually it is quite therapeutic if you've ever tried it to take the lid off a milk bottle and jump on it, as long as it's empty. Try it. It's actually really good fun. It's actually really good fun. And it can diffuse a situation as well. If you say to a kid, why don't you jump on this? It actually can diffuse a situation, but it can get them a bit more worked up. So that's why I'm saying anger strategies are very, very personal. That's why we need to tailor them to each child. And what may work for one child may not work for another.
Okay,
Please, Mum, please!
The final strategy I'd like to talk about is something called talking it through.
Right.
And it's about being able to verbalise what it is that's making your child angry. So your child may be happy to talk to you about it once they've calmed down. Or they may prefer, I work with a lot of children who find talking to a pet or a cuddly toy very useful.
Really?
Just to get it out of their head, just to talk about it. And it can be quite relaxing to be stroking a pet and talking to a pet.
And are you present at the time, or do you send them
to the room and say,
talk to your
they can do it on their own.
cat about it or whatever?
they can. And the thing with pets is they don't answer you back.
Do they charge for this service? £50 an hour to the cat?
Who knows? It depends how good they are at it, I suppose. What they can charge.
If they start purring, you know that they're earning their money, yes.
Or they can talk to a cuddly toy, or maybe they want to write something down. Maybe they're very artistic. Maybe they want to draw something. So about getting creative and getting those things out of your head, because that can work for some people to get that anger out of their heads. With younger children, it could just involve scribbling on a piece of paper or doing something creatively that works on their anger. And I would say at this point, I know we've probably focused on strategies for slightly older children, but for those of you who are listening with very young children, having a calm box is a really good thing to have.
A calm
box. So maybe getting one of those plastic crates that you can pick up in home base or whatever, and you can put lots of things that a child can sit and calm down with. Maybe suggest a calm corner in the room, because very young children, you don't want to be sending them up to their room, having them in the same room as you, but in a little corner that you've labelled the calm corner, maybe under the stairs or in the corner of the lounge or something.
Is this a circle by barbed wire? No, I'm not getting it, am I?
But they could have things like little snow globes that they can watch the snow falling down. They could have little shaky things or furry things that they can touch and stroke. Maybe some pens and drawing things.
Oh, I really love the sound of the calm box. That's really. I might get a calm box for myself. So listen, fantastic amount of tools, tips and techniques to help you and your child stay calm. Can I go over what that list might be?
Can you remember?
I don't know if I can. If there's sparks, the first thing we do as parents and adults is to stay calm, so that we're not going to make it worse. Now, you talked about identifying a strategy beforehand, so striking while the iron is cold and making a decision on what best strategy there is to keep calm when you can feel the sparks going. Is that right?
Yes.
Namely, take a break.
Yes.
Yeah, physically break, move away from each other. Slow down your body, I remember you saying. Maybe listening to some chill out music. the physical thing, again, just to remind you, hitting something but not another person, maybe a pillow, or jumping up and down on milk cartons, which is apparently quite therapeutic. I'm going to try it in a minute. And then finally, talking things through. Yeah. Talking to a pet, talking to a cuddly toy or whatever will help them just exercise it in a more sort of, what's the word I'm looking for, creative way maybe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant.
And it just gets them to come to terms with their emotions and to be able to fix the problem that's making them angry.
Fantastic.
That's what we're getting them to do.
So there's some brilliant tips in there. I'm going to go off and try them now on children I don't even know. If I see a kid, I'm going to run at it with my cat and say, talk to that. But listen, Beth, it's been absolutely fantastic to talk to you as ever.
And it's been lovely to talk with you. And remember, look after yourselves.
And